Hey, welcome to Life After Death. My name is Curtis Childs. Today's show is Do All Angels Look the Same? Let's talk about why we look like we do. Why am I going bald so fast? And why are we related to the people that we're related to? The answer to both of those is genetics. In your body, in every little cell, there's a piece of molecule lattice that is called DNA. And that DNA is in every single cell, and that tells you how your body should behave and grow. And it also is made up of your ancestors. It's their genomes kind of recombined and spliced into you. You are connected to them through genetics. Or I should say, your body is connected to them through genetics. Because not so long from now, in the grand scheme of things, your body's going to die. Everybody's body is going to die within the next 200 years. I'll cover my bases. But you're not going to die. Your consciousness is not going to die. That's the thesis of this channel. It's the primary message of Swedenborg's experiences and what he learned. You are going to keep being alive, but you're not going to have a physical body anymore. You're in a spiritual body in the spiritual world. How do you look in the spiritual world? What determines that? It's not your genetics anymore. And are you related to anybody in the spiritual world? Can a spirit be related to a spirit? What is the spiritual side of this whole thing? How does this play out among the angels? That's what we're looking at today. So here, and by here, of course, I mean in physical reality, the groupings that we have and the degrees of relatedness we have to people, they are physical. What I mean by that is that they are matter-based, as opposed to things that are consciousness-based, which those are called spiritual. So on Earth, you might be physically part of a certain community, like you're born in a certain place in the world, and those people are around you. But in your heart and mind, in the spiritual side of you, in what you care about and what you believe, you might be part of a different community. What's the joke? That comes out at Thanksgiving. We're all related, but we think very differently. Sometimes people will talk about communities that they're in, even if they're physically distant and not related to those people. I'm in the music community, or more regularly people say, I'm in the scientific community. I'm part of the medical community. And they mean because those are the people that have similar affections and interests to them. And that's getting closer to how both community and close relations form in the afterlife. Let's crack open Heaven and Hell. This is Swedenborg's book that we're making our way through, where he saw how this all goes down on the other side. He says in number 46, the only relationships and kinships and friendships in the other life are spiritual ones, and are therefore matters of love and faith. Something spiritual is spiritual if it has to do with what you believe, what you care about, what you intend, and then what you think. What your mental construct of how the world works and should work is. So everything spiritual has to do with love and faith, or what you feel and what you think. And that is what creates relationships, kinships, and friendships in the other life. Now, don't get worried, and I don't want to get any letters in the mail that says, wait a second, does that mean I won't get to be around my family anymore? You could very well be around your family in the afterlife, but not because of a genetic connection. In the other life, genetics, proximity on Earth, who you knew on Earth, that doesn't have any real impact, lasting impact there. What does is love. Love brings people together. Loving the same thing brings people together. Beliefs can bring people together. So you could very well be surrounded by your family there, but it would be because of the love rather than because of the physical genetics. And there's just as much opportunity to have people around you that are close to you who are not related to you at all on Earth, you didn't even know on Earth, but have the same kind of mind, the same kind of mind as you, because there the mind is what drives everything. That's what spiritual is. Swedenborg talks about this in Heaven and Hell 46. He says, in the afterlife, people of similar quality all recognize each other there, just the way people in this world recognize their neighbors and relatives and friends, even though they may have never seen each other before. Like, it's you. Who are you? I have often been allowed to see this when I was in the spirit, and therefore out of the body and in the company of angels. Then some of them, meaning some of those angels, looked to me as though I had known them from infancy, while others seemed totally unfamiliar. The ones who looked as though I had known them from infancy were the ones who were in a state like that of my own spirit, while the unfamiliar ones were in dissimilar states. Why do we feel like we know people? Why we know each other? Because we're familiar. Yeah, I remember when we did this. I've seen you a lot. I know what you look like, so you seem familiar to me. There, the familiarity of state of mind is what draws us together. And you have people that go to the afterlife run into this surprise familiarity. There is a woman named Dr. Mary Neal who has these great books where she talks about her spiritual experiences, her near-death experiences, and she writes in To Heaven and Back, while I could not identify each spiritual being that she met there as someone by name, I knew each of them well, knew they were from God, and knew that I had known them for an eternity. And she there is saying that she thinks she already knew them before life. I think Swedenborg would say we have this sense that we've already known someone because of our similarity. It brings up that familiarity that makes it feel like that. I'll leave you to make your choice on it, but it's in either case, it is the similarity of being that creates this closeness there. So that closeness that you have, in essence, is like you have a spiritual family on the other side. And like all families, you are going to look like your spiritual family does. There's different categories of ways that people look. For example, you could look at me and say, yep, I can see that you have Scandinavian type ancestors. I'm a Scandinavian looking dude. Does that happen in the afterlife? I mean, so here you have certain regions of the planet where your ancestors came from, and so they had to adapt to the climate and stuff there. Does that happen in the afterlife? Yes, but for different reasons. So people who are, let's say, blood relations on Earth, somebody in the same family, they have a family resemblance. You can look at two people and say, "Oh, are you siblings? Or is that your uncle?" Because they don't look exactly the same, but they have a similarity in their facial. Usually, we identify it by their facial features. Everybody's face is unique, and there can be quite a lot of variation, but there's something that looks similar about them. It shows, hey, you're related to each other. That doesn't mean, though, that those two people think like each other. You can have family members who look similar, but could be very different. Their hearts and their minds, if you could see those, might look very different. Or there could be people who look really different physically, look opposite from each other physically, but have very similar interests, very similar goals on the inside, similar values, similar things that they think are important. They could be drawn to each other and be very similar in spirit after death. So in the afterlife, it's a consciousness-based existence. So the way that we look there doesn't just reflect genetics and stuff. It reflects who we are inside. So it reflects our thoughts and feelings and our goals. So people who are drawn together in the afterlife and form communities of interest and love together, they have a physical or a visual resemblance like people in a family do. They have a family resemblance. This is Swedenborg. Did you ever think of that? That's so fascinating. Swedenborg talks about this in Heaven and Hell 47. All the individuals who make up a particular angelic community have a general facial resemblance, but differ in detail. I could grasp this general similarity and particular difference to some extent on the basis of similar situations in this world. This holds true much more perfectly in the heavens, because there all the deeper feelings are visible and shine forth from the face. The face there being their outward and graphic form, meaning the feelings outward and graphic form. And Swedenborg had this experience with this where he was shown an angelic face, which is this picture of some kind of angelic love, probably really good-looking face. And as he watched, he got shown all the different variations in that face that all the individuals in that community that it represented had. So, this one has got different eyebrows or whatever. But all of them, all the people in that community had this similar facial look because there was this basis of that love. He wrote, "In this way, I was shown the affections of the whole community that occasioned the differences in the faces of its members." He could tell these are all the different ways that these individuals who are unique, this is all the different ways in which they care about the common goal of the community. It's the way that they love to contribute to the mission that the community is on. That shows up in the faces. That's what creates difference of appearance there. Here, you never know. You can have a pretty face, but you're a bad person. You can have a homely face, but you are a good person. You can have a smile on your face, but you have ill intent. On the other side, faces do what they were intended to do, which is to show who you are. The spiritual world, as described by Swedenborg, is this fascinating combination of being similar in a lot of ways to what we experience here. You can be in rooms, you can walk down paths, you see other people, they have human form. But there's also a lot of differences. And I feel like one of the most important differences of the spiritual world is that you know what's going on with people there. Swedenborg says in Heaven and Hell 48, "In heaven, no one can conceal inner character by facial expression and pretend, much less lie and deceive others by guile and hypocrisy." Bro, I could go for that. Because you're here telling me that my tap water is not good and I need to buy this $10,000 water filtration system. Are you telling the truth? Or are you just trying to get me to buy something that I don't need? I don't know. I don't know how to know. You seem like you're being earnest and honest, but we don't know. In heaven, the face gives it away. Now, Swedenborg will say this, like, no one can conceal their inner feelings. And then he'll give you a counterexample. Things in the spiritual world, just like they are here, are not rigid and fundamentalistic. There's exceptions to rules, but not in the long run. Swedenborg did see sometimes hypocritical spirits, meaning people who were practiced in being hypocrites, trying to manipulate this system, but they couldn't get away with it for long. This is the story of that happening.
It does sometimes happen that hypocrites steal into heavenly communities. Hypocrites trained in hiding their inner nature and arranging their outward appearance in the benevolent form they present in public, thereby misleading angels of light. However, they cannot stay around very long. They begin to feel inner discomfort and torment. Their faces start to turn blue and they almost faint. Change is caused by their opposition to the life that is flowing in and affecting them. So they promptly cast themselves back into the hell of people like themselves and no longer dare to climb up again. These are the people meant by the man who was discovered among the dinner guests without a wedding garment and was thrown out into outer darkness.
Sorry, just a quick tangent here. The Bible, it says at the end, the Bible is describing how stuff works in the spiritual world. He's talking about this. These are the people that were invited without a way. The Bible is describing the conditions in the spiritual world. How is that not interesting? Okay, you can fool some angels a little for a while on the lower levels. Eventually, your own lungs are going to give out if you try to do that. But you could never pull that in the deeper/higher levels of heaven. Because as you become more and more of an angel, you get to see this stuff like instinctively. So Swedenborg says in Heaven and Hell 48, an angel of outstanding wisdom sees the quality of others instantly from their faces. Because there, the face is a picture of who you are. So you have these different looking faces and these different looking communities that are not just arbitrary, but are the very expression of your soul, which is cool for all kinds of reasons, but also makes it so you can't pretend to be who you're not. You can't pull that on an angel. Come on, man. So if we're going to answer the question from the title, no, not all angels look the same. And there's concrete spiritual law-based reasons for that. Swedenborg says it really succinctly in Heaven and Hell 47, the faces of angels are their deeper qualities taking form. If you just take that principle, it all makes total sense. In the spiritual world, people gather together naturally because of these deeper qualities, not because of their physical, external DNA, but because of what they care about, what they think about, what they believe, what they love, what they act on. That forms you into communities, and that is what's visible to others. So that makes you look like you do. People who are gathered for similar things, for similar reasons, they look similar to each other. And this is a way that you can tell who someone is by the way that their face is. In the spiritual world, it goes all the way down the spectrum. The more and more that you harbor within you things that are monstrous, the less human you look. So if you think it's fun to harm people and defraud them and do everything else that's evil to them, people can see that. It looks like it should. Here we can have you can be charming and smiling, but do terrible things. So overall, there is this honesty and this chance for what's deep inside you to shine through, and you are going to be in this community of people that have a similar heart to you and a similar mind, and you're going to feel like you're with your family, your real, true family. Maybe some members of your current family, new ones you haven't met. It's going to feel like I've known you forever, and it's going to feel like we are absolutely, totally compatible. Thanksgiving's going to be great. It's going to be lively, but there's not going to be that same kind of like, oh no, there's my uncle's talking about this again. Because there, it's the heart that draws together.